Now, if you're new around here, there's one thing you need to know about us, and that's that we love a camper. But the thing is, there's so many to choose from.
Now you could go for one of these, the good old camper van, and this used to be a Sainsbury's delivery van.
It's comfy, it's spacious, it even has a luxury bathroom with a door. But she's not going to get you very far off-road.
And that's why you want one of these, the good old go anywhere Land Rover Defender. Now it looks cool, it's compact,
But sometimes, even with the rooftop conversion, it can be a little bit too compact.
and that's why we're building this. Now it's 6-wheel drive, so it'll get us pretty much anywhere. There's loads more space, but it's no longer than the Sprinter or the Defender. And when we build the pop-top roof, hopefully it'll be our overlanding dream.
Now, there's pros and cons to all different kinds of campers, but the one thing they all have in common is they're fun to build and they're the absolute best way to travel. So let's get to it.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, hopefully, this is going to be a good week this week because we got all the bits back from the fabricators and we managed to get all the bits that we made last week all painted up. So we need to declutter the workshop. But before we do that, I've got something to show you. Now, the generals told me no more tool buying, for this episode at least. But technically, I didn't buy these this week. I bought them last week and they've just come. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it, but there's such a thing called Clecos. Tell you what, if I mentioned how much I love these Cleco pins, these are brilliant, these are, and all these Cleco pins. I love the Cleco pins. And I really think they're a good bit of kit. Now, these are like Clecos, but very similar, but you have to use the Cleco pliers. They're like a G-clamp, and they've got a real heavy-duty spring at the bottom, so you can open them up, and then you can clamp bits of metal together and all sorts of things like that. Not too sure what I'm going to use them for, but I think they're a great little addition to the workshop.
Well, now Toolboy has shown you his new toy. Let's get the back end on Big Red.
I think this, gotta say though, who was using the tools most last week?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The old Milwaukee buffer. Whoa,
It is a beauty.
she's a tool.
You're a tool. Right, let's do this first. Well, she's not looking so bare bummed anymore.
But she's not finished just yet because we're still waiting on the steps to go on both sides and they're still at the powder coaters. So as soon as we get them back, we'll get them on.
And obviously, we need to get ourselves a black lifesaver, or I need to sew up a cover for this jerry can.
But with the jerry cans, for the holders for them, so we bought them this time instead of building them because we got 2 for 50 quid from eBay. And by the time we bought materials and everything like that, we probably couldn't have made them for that. And with these, they've got a strap that goes over the top so we can padlock them in. I don't know what the quality's going to be like, but we'll give them a go anyway.
Yeah, we'll test them out and we'll let you know.
But I want to talk to you about the old water filler point on the old fire truck. Now, I had loads of brilliant ideas about this. And some of my favourites were a table stand, a wall clock,
A light fitting,
a shower
or
point.
a tap fitting.
Yeah,
so
but
many good ones.
My favourite one was by far was to go on the back of the spare wheel like that. Like that would look the bee's knees, that would anyway.
The bee's
Bee's
knees, eh?
knees.
But unfortunately we can't because we always carry a dirty bag on our spare wheel. And this is my moment to show you guys something. Ta-da! We have a King's bag all the way from Australia. Thank you, Paul, so much. You absolute legend. Because we were saying in Spain how much we missed them. And he went and sent us one. So can't tell you how happy I am.
And the reason we like these so much is because they're a tarpaulin material, so they don't fade, they don't get wet, they don't smell when you get like rubbish in them and things like that.
And they're so strong
Yeah,
as
so
well.
brilliant.
And the reason we always carry a dirty bag is if you've got a bag of rubbish that's full inside, you can just put it outside. Wet wetsuits, if you go hiking and your boots are dirty, just can't beat them. But obviously, we couldn't put this on the back and then cover it with a bag.
Some would say it's a brilliant bit of kit for the camper van.
You little ripper. Well, the time has come to fit the most beautifully fabricated tank brackets you ever did see. But I had so much fun building these last week, and I just love building the vans. You get such a sense of achievement out of it. But we wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for the support of our sponsors. So I want to take a minute to chat to you about this week's sponsor, Incogni. So Incogni is a personal information removal service, and they do battle with data brokers to have you removed from the list they collect and make sure you stay off them.
So data brokers make a profit with your personal information because they make profiles with things like your national insurance number, your date of birth, and even your financial situation.
They then sell this information to marketers, insurers and financial institutions, and they use it to make decisions about you, like whether to give you a loan or not, or whether to insure you or not. They're also responsible for most of the junk mail and robocalls that you get. So since I've signed up with Incogni, they found me on and had me removed from over 40 different lists. Now that is a lot of people with my personal information.
So if that's not bad enough, these databases are hacked on a regular basis, which means millions of people's personal information ends up in the hands of criminals who do things like steal your identity. So data protection law says you can be removed from these lists, but it makes the companies a lot of money, so they make it hard work and time consuming to come off it.
But that's where Incogni come in, because all you have to do is sign up, grant them the right to work for you, and they'll do the rest. So far, using Incogni has saved me 30 hours of work. They've also had me put on 18 suppression lists, which means I will never go back onto those databases. And for the companies who refuse to put me onto a suppression list, they continually send them removal notices, which means I won't ever go back on those lists either. So if you want to take back control of your personal data, Incogni have given us a massive 60% discount for you guys on an annual plan. All you have to do is use the code TRUEBLUE at the checkout, and I'll put a link in the description for you.
Now the water tanks are on and the filling neck's in and it's looking beautiful, but I want to talk to you a little bit about hoses, fittings and some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Now firstly, I want to speak to you about pipe work. Now when you're doing your water inlet, you want to use 40mm corrugated hose like this, and the way it's designed is that when you bend it tightly it doesn't kink, whereas when you use normal silicone hose, as soon as you bend it tightly it kinks. But you've got to be a bit careful because they do two different types of this. They do a cheap version and a more expensive version. And the cheap version, when you run your finger inside, you can feel every little rib. So when you put that on your fitting, you clamp it up, it's hard work to get a good seal. Whereas this more expensive stuff, I think this is brand called Fawo, but when you put your finger inside, it's got like a silicone liner inside, so it's real smooth. So when you put that on your fitting and clamp it up, you get a real good seal. And then when it comes to the hose fittings, you don't want to use a normal Jubilee clip, because if I was to put that on there and tighten it up, all it would do is crush the outside ribs, because that's all it's touching. So what you need to do is you need to get these double wire hose clips. And when they go on, they sit on the inside of the ribs. So when you tighten it up, it won't crush the pipe and it'll create a good seal. And then lastly, I want to speak to you about a bit of lubricant gel. Now, there's no dad jokes coming here or anything like that. It's straight up serious talk. But this is the Flowplast brand and really do rate it. And I use it for the rubber pipes to go on plastic fittings. Because if you don't use it, it's real hard work and it's drinking safe as well. So you just get that from Screwfix. And then you've got this Fernox jointing compound. Now, a lot of plumbers will use this on any thread fittings like taps and things like that. And it's really good for creating a seal. And I like to use it rather than silicone, because if you use silicone, as soon as you move that fitting, it'll break the seal. Whereas with this, it stays flexible. So you can move the fitting or a rock could hit it and it still won't break the seal. So yeah, recommend that. Screwfix again, and it's good for drinking water.
Grapes in hand, looking up. Endless wine fills our cup. Draped in fine cotton clothes. Always hair, skin brown.
She's on.
Well, we're only about a quarter of the way there with the roof, but at least it fits. But as you saw, we used this 50 by 50mm box section, which we've welded up into a frame, which we've sat inside the skin and we've riveted it all too. And then the reason we've done this is because this is what's going to be all the strength and structure to the roof. So this is what's going to fix to the front hinge, and this is what we're going to mount the gas struts to on the side. So like I say, all the strain and everything will be taken up by this, not the 3mm alley. So on the hinge on the front, when this compresses down, it goes to 24mm, which is why I've put the two strips of wood in just to mock it up for the minute. And then also we've got this D-seal, which we're going to run all around the sides and around the back to give us our seal. Now, you might think it looks a bit boxy at the minute, but just like with the Sainsbury's van, by the time I make the roof rack on the front, it'll bridge the gap and it should look pretty good.
Well, after an evening of deliberation, we've decided we're going to have to change tact to continue any further with the hinging of the roof. because, like when we showed you with the gull wing, we're going to have to get the base of the roof and the lid of the roof at 90 degrees. And there ain't no way we're going to do that with it on. So we're going to have to take it off and then build it upside down on the lawn. But before we can take it off, we need to figure out the base for the bed. So that's today's job. So we've got part one of the bed frame, and this is the bit that's going at the front, and the whole rest of the bed frame is going to hinge up off of it. So what we've done is we've got some bits of angle and we've cut them down so they sit in between these two sections of box. And then we can drill them and rivet them through the frame for the pop top and into the steel behind it. So she is going nowhere.
So the base part is all welded up, but considering Jess did a brilliant job last week at the old MIG welding, she wants to give a go at the old TIG welding.
I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
Now, I might not be the best teacher because I'm learning myself, but I think she'll do okay anyway.
Yeah, let's do this. This is my first time giving it a go as
Come
well.
on, get on, woman! Right, so you want to hold it about like there.
About there.
And don't worry about feeding it through at the minute, we're just going to do that. And don't panic and put it in first and don't move too quick, alright?
Okay.
Right, go on then.
Deep breath. Check that out!
What a job that was!
Get in!
Look at this little beauty!
Look at this!
Go on, dry on!
Yeah, baby!
Not bad, not bad. I'll have to get a better shot of that because it did come out good. Well done, girl, well done.
Get in!
Now, I do appreciate a woman with a nice smile. But you know what I appreciate even more? A woman that can weld, because she's done a cracking job of this for her first go. So I'm really impressed with her. And I'm that much impressed, I might have to get the old fireman outfit out for you tonight, girl.
Ooh la la, I have done well.
Well, the old bed frame coming along a treat. I reckon the old general might be teaching me a few things about welding. But I want to speak to you about a few bits of tools that I've been using to make this frame. So firstly, these 90-degree clamps. You can get a pack of 4 from Amazon for about 12 quid, and they come in handy for all sorts of things, but especially jobs like this, where obviously I can't use a quick grip clamp because I just melt them when I was welding. So I could bolt them all on, hold everything square, and then I can weld with it all together. And like I say, I still use them for woodwork as well to do frames and everything, so really do recommend them. And then this little ripper. So this is, as we would say, the bee's knees.
What, the bee's knees?
The bee's knees. But this is the Evolution drop saw, and it's a multi-material blade on it, which means you can cut wood, metal, aluminium, plastics and everything like that. Now, I do have a big drop saw for wood, but this is so good for doing the aluminium. And if you were going to do a van and you wanted a job to do all, I highly recommend this. 70 quid from Screwfix.
So now our bed needs a base, and we've decided to go for a sheet of perforated steel, which is basically just a sheet of steel with thousands and thousands of tiny little holes in it. And we've gone for a 5mm hole, because then it's the perfect size for us to put our rivets to and secure it to our bed base. Now, the reason we've gone for this is that it will allow our mattress to breathe, so we don't have to worry about mould and things like that up in the roof. And we've actually stolen this idea from a couple called Karsten and Maxine, who are in Australia, and they're currently building an amazing ocker. That'll be easier.
Always on hand to give you a bit of wood, aren't you?
God. We have a bed. It needs painting, but we have a bed.
You know what else it needs?
What?
Testing. Won't happen much, will it?
That's about as long as it lasts, too.
Well, we haven't spoke to this morning because we've been going like Billy-O because it's been raining on and off outside and we needed to get the bed frame in to get it tested, and she fits like a treat, so over the moon with that. But I thought this morning we start the day off on a triple T, and Jess has suggested we talk about the hydraulic press. So if you don't know what a hydraulic press is, all it is a big metal frame with a hydraulic cylinder on top. So what I'd use it for is I'd get my workpiece, I'd put it in there in the frame, and then I'd compress the oil inside the cylinder, which would push this piston out and create a pressure onto my workpiece. Now, the reason I'd use this is because you can do it in a controlled way, doing it millimetres at a time, but also with a huge amount of pressure. So this is only a 20-ton press, which is a baby, but there's some right big ones out there. So for an example, what you'd use it for, if you pretend this is your car wheel, and this is the bearing that sits in the middle of the hub, it's an interference fit, meaning you don't want this bearing to spin in the hub because it'd just wreck it. So it's a real tight, millimetre perfect fit. And if you was to whack that in with a hammer, because the bearing's really delicate, you'd just damage the bearing. So this is where the press would come in, because you'd stick that in there and then you'd press the bearing in nice and steady. Now, pressing the bearings in is the easy bit. Pressing them out is the hard bit, because normally the bearing would have been in the hub for 10, 20 years with all the weather corroding it. And when I used to work on trucks and plant, we'd have the hub in the press, massive 100-ton press, we'd have it maxed out, we'd have heat on it, we'd be whacking it with a hammer, and when they finally give, they go with a bang. So it comes in handy for all sorts of things, but another thing I like using it for is bending thick steel, because the little bench top one that I've got will only do up to about 4mm, whereas I've made this little folder that I can press on to bend up to 8mm stuff. So let me show you in action. Very beautiful. So you know what I'm going to say, don't you? But I think the General hose is a proper one, because she didn't do a proper one the other week. Come on. She's been on the tools a lot lately. She's been appreciating the tools. So you give him one. Your best one.
I've already given you one.
The best one.
You're my best John.
Go on.
All right. You ready for this? Brilliant bit of kit for the workshop.
I never wanted you more.
So for our next job, we're on with replacing the tree sliders that run the length of the vehicle, because the ones she came with aren't good for much other than the bonfire. So we have got ourselves some sexy looking ash. Now, ash is a hardwood, and apparently is what they use on these vintage vehicles and Morris Minors and things as well. And it's good for this job because it doesn't have much in the way of knots in it, and it's supposed to be quite good for not warping. So the first job is we need to router out a channel down the middle, because they're secured to the vehicle with rivy nuts and they stick out a little bit, and we want the wood to sit flush. So now they're all routed out, we need to drill the holes for the bolts to go in. Now these are all countersunk, because obviously we don't want the bolts protruding on the outside, which would ideally be a job for a drill press, but we had to get rid of ours because we didn't have enough room, so milling machine it is. Machinists, close your eyes. Countersinking done, now we've got to drill them all through the middle.
So the next thing we need to do is give it its profile, because both sides are chamfered to about 15 degrees. So the old angle finders come in handy again, and then there's a 10mm flat at the bottom. So let's rip it through the table saw.
Now for the 45-degree angles at the end, and that is a job for the trusty old drop saw. But did I mention that these 8 pieces of wood cost us £150? So no room for error. And last job, got to smooth the edges. It's the moment of truth. Let's see if they fit.
Well, I don't know whether I love it or hate it.
I'm just glad they fit.
But we're not going to leave it wood anyway. We're going to paint it black, because that was what it was originally. And we did think about staining them, but I just think there'd be too many colours about. By the time we got the shutters on and things like that,
It does feel criminal to paint over such beautiful wood, though.
It's looking a bit boaty at the minute, don't you think?
She is a bit boxy as well.
But we're going to leave you there this week anyway, because we've got to drag the old Sainsbury's van out.
Dust her off.
Yeah, we've got to sort that before we go to Van Love Fest. which means we won't be doing a video next week as well.
No,
So because
we're going to be away for a long weekend, so we just wouldn't get enough content done to make you a good video.
And Jess is getting on the pop, so you never know. There might not be one the weekend after as well.
Yeah, if you want to see what we get up to, we will do Instagram stories, so that should be a lot of fun. But like I say, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time, and don't forget about that Incogni link in the description.